Hey everybody, happy Friday. We're just gonna give it a sec for the notifications to jump out. Let some people jump on, and I'm just gonna make sure I'm live here. Take that out. All right, you guys, so if you're popping on, just say hey, where you're watching from. Let me know you're here. So far, here we go. All right, perfect. So I know I'm live. So you guys, we're going to be working on our Mediterranean piece back here. I feel like my overhead lights are causing it to be an issue, and I only brought one of my photography lights out here, so hopefully you can see pretty well. It's still kind of in a crazy state, but it's definitely going to be finished up this weekend. So I see a couple people on. We'll go ahead and get started. Guys, if you haven't seen me, I'm Stacy with New Creations by Stacy. I'm the owner and artist. I am a Dixie Belle elite retailer, which just means I carry everything in the stores, and I'm at University University Pickers in Huntsville, and then I'm also at the Rustic Willow in Ardmore. I have Redesign with Prima products as well as Dixie Belle products, and then also at Vintage 72 in Madison, I carry Redesign with Prima. Hey, Lori, good to see you. Oh, thank you. It's still got a little ways to go. I've actually got 3 different stages on here, so I'm hoping to really kind of show you guys what's going on. We did the crazy stage live, so if you didn't get to see that, you can go back in my timeline to see how we did this. But again, you can see it's kind of in its crazy state. So I've got more people jumping on. Great. Really quick, we'll go over what I've already done, and then we'll get started. So essentially this piece, I cleaned it, of course, with White Lightning. That's always the first step, no brainer. Always clean it. You want a nice surface for your paint to be able to adhere to. Of course, if there's dirt on it, you put paint over it, it's just going to come off later, be chippy, stuff like that. All right, so on the first coat, I did not need to prime this piece. It did have a really good, the original manufacturer's finish was intact, so I really didn't have to worry about any bleed through because that's creating that barrier for me between the wood and my paint. And then also it wasn't so glassy and slick that I needed to use slick stick on it or any type of bonding primer like that. So all I did was give it a good scuff sand, and I did use my sander with a 220 grit. So that was the original surface. I did go ahead, this piece, I'm gonna pop you guys down. This piece actually had like the scrolly trim on the bottom and everything like that. So I did go ahead, sorry, just covered the camera. So I did go ahead and add this Iflex trim on. This is the Mediterranean Iflex trim. You guys can comment and I'll post the link if anybody's interested in the trim. Hey, Angie, oh my gosh, it's so good to see you on here. It's been so long. All right, you guys, so I did put the medium Mediterranean trim on the bottom. I also cut out these circles here. These are going to be the back plates for my knobs, which should be in my mailbox right now, but I haven't got to check. Otherwise, I should have so I could show you. And then this trim right here is 2.75 inches. And then I also used a larger Mediterranean trim. This is a little over 4 inches. Oh, thanks. Yeah, I love colorful too, so that's why, but we're putting the blue over it, and this is just gonna peek through. But I did cut out 3 of these. This had one of those shell things in the middle, so I cut out 3 of these little circles and put these on to cover that shell piece, give it a whole different vibe. And then I used Plum Crazy, which is this pink. I used Terracotta for the orange and Colonel Mustard for the yellow. And this is our first coat. And then we're going to start on our second coat now. So I'm going to actually bring you guys up or bring you guys over so you have a closer up view of this top section. But I want to make sure you're all in screen there. And you know what? I feel like I need to raise this up. I should have done this before. Well, I think you guys have got a good enough view there. Let me bring you in close so you can really see. We're only going to be working on one side at a time anyway. So let's do that. And then let me grab my phone so I can see any comments. You guys, if you have any questions, just let me know. Oh, see ya, Angie. Thanks for popping in. All right, so here we go. We're going to be using, and you guys have already got these open because I've been working on the last layer here on this side, these couple of drawers over here. But I've got Peacock. And then we are going to be also using Pure Ocean, which is just this gorgeous blue color. And then we also have Antebellum blue that we're going to be using, and that's our dark color. And this is the second coat. I've actually got pretty much 3 coats on. Hey, Penny. All right, so you're seeing the crazy state again, and it's not going to look that great after this second coat either. It's really the last steps that I'm doing that is really, really bringing it together. On this first coat, I also did use texture. So I used sea spray with that just to give it some brush strokes, some dabbing. I did some stippling on it, all that good stuff. It's a little bit, I got some of the paint leftovers on here, so I'm just wiping off those little crumbs. And you guys, I'll try to bring you in for the close-up on one of the drawers. So I also need, on this second coat, I'm not using water, but I am using some vinegar. This is just plain white distilled vinegar. And I've got some baby wipes out as well, so that we can pull back some of this. So you guys, I told you at one point that we might, so I'm not using a lot of pressure. I'm just going over this with the Antebellum blue because I want some of these colors peeking through. I told you guys at one point that I was going to try this new technique for chippiness. I did try it on the side. It didn't work out the way I wanted it to. And I think it's because I just don't paint thick enough, but I'm going to play around with that technique. Like I said, my 3-year-old granddaughter, we came across it by accident. And once I get it right, then I will go ahead and do the live on it. So I can't see that front section here. So I'm just dabbing because that allows some of the color to show through. Hopefully you guys can see that there. Let me know if you need a better view. I can actually raise you up just a little bit so you can really get a good angle on this top. And all I'm doing is going in different areas with the Antebellum. Mainly since this is my darker color on this top portion here, I'm mainly trying to keep it closer to the edges. And like I said, I'm not putting a lot of pressure on my brush, so what's happening is the texture, the paint is holding on to some of the top ledges of that texture, and so it's allowing these colors to kind of peek through. I'm dabbing in some spots just to fill in a little bit more so it looks a little more authentic and aged out. And like I said, I'll bring you guys in for a close-up a little bit. So now we're just going to come in with some Peacock. I've got 3 different premium chip brushes I'm using. The reason, you guys, I'm not really blending this, but the reason I am using premium chip brushes is this does not lend itself to a really nice smooth finish. This paint is self-leveling, so it's given to, create a brush stroke free finish, but I actually want this texture in here. So that's why I'm using one of these natural bristle brushes. If I use a synthetic brush, that's gonna even make it more unlikely to have this texture on it. By the time I finish it though, it really will not be textured because I will use a fine grit sandpaper and bring it down. So the majority of the colors that I'm using, there we go. I have a bristle stuck in here from my brush, and I think I painted it in on the first coat. So I just want to kind of get that out. I'll dab over that spot. I could have waited till the end and my sandpaper would have taken it out as well, but I like to get them out when I see them. And there's really not a whole lot of rhyme or reason other than I'm trying to, how I'm laying out these colors, other than I'm trying to kind of keep it, my darker colors closer to the outside, but it's not a hard and fast rule. That's just where I'm going. Again, I want some stippling in the texture, but then I also want some of these straight brush strokes. I'm kind of switching back here a little bit to my Antebellum. All I'm doing, the purpose of this particular coat is to lay the color out and to get more texture. I do find that I like this Antebellum blue. I'm gonna scoot you over some because I do work in pieces. I am finding that I do like this Antebellum blue, really nice. It goes really nice over the Colonel Mustard. And I like the Peacock more with the oranges. I can't even see what I'm doing up here, but you guys, this isn't really that serious. So now that I'm coming in, I have no gravity to help me here, but now that I'm coming in with my Pure Ocean, this is where, first of all, I'm blending it, so I'm getting different shades of blue here when I'm stippling onto other sections that are still wet. But also, this is where I'm going to come in and use some of my vinegar. I don't have gravity to help me create the drips and everything, but I've got it on, and I'm going to use some baby wipes. And vinegar separates your paint. So hopefully, I really wish I would have raised this up more. Hopefully you can see this. What I'm doing is I am actually pulling back some of what I just put on, and that's exposing the orange. And when you use vinegar, it's gonna give you a really nice, it won't look like that. So a lot of times when you do like a wet distress or something like this and you use water, because water will appear to do the same thing, it won't separate your colors like vinegar will. So that's why I'm using vinegar and not water for this. So we're just gonna come back in because I have some nice orange and stuff peeking through here. And we are just going to continue on with our Peacock. You guys, I even did some splatters with this on the sides and a few on the front. So maybe I'll show you that technique too here in a little bit. But I just want to kind of speed this along. This isn't that important. I just want a lot of texture. It's that last coat that's the important coat, or the most important coat. Let's bring some of this dark like right in over here. Like I said, I like it over the Colonel Mustard. Looks really nice. Let's add some more of that stippling. Take a little of this Peacock. And again, you guys, I promise this is going to come together. If you haven't seen me before, you're probably thinking, what am I doing? It's gonna look ugly before it looks better. What I might do is skip doing the other side of this. Nah, let's just finish it up. We're good on time. I want to show you how we're doing the last coat. So let's bring some more Pure Ocean in. I just kind of like these little highlights. I do like the Pure Ocean dabbed on better though. Not so much streaky. So let's spray that with a little bit of vinegar. Let's go ahead and pull some of that back. So it gives me that nice pure color when I'm using vinegar again to pull back. And I can even go over areas that were previous done and are already drying, and that vinegar will still separate that out wherever I want. I feel like we need a little bit more back here. Now, I can hit that on the third layer. So we're moving right along. We're gonna come over here a little bit. And this is how I did the entire second layer on this piece. You guys are so quiet tonight. What's everybody working on? Any big plans for the weekend? Anything fun? And we're just streaking this along. So with the Mediterranean, I'm using the Mediterranean trim. But with the Mediterranean paint job, it's normally not quite this chippy looking. This is just kind of what it's evolving into and what I had pictured in my mind. Let's bring some of this over here. Have my little darker section up here. Some of this over on top of the Colonel Mustard. Again, just creating lots of texture with the stippling. And let's come in pretty quick because I'm not using any water. Let's go right over this so I can lighten up this Antebellum, but I'll have still a slightly different color. And even after I stipple, I can still go back over it, kind of change the direction. One of the reasons too that I'm skipping around so much is in some places I want it to be pure, this pure Peacock in here. I want to leave a nice section of orange right there, I think. Yeah. Sorry, you guys, I started painting and kind of got off track of what I was talking about. It'll come to me in just a minute. You just kind of want to look and see if there's any areas you want to change because some of this will show through a little bit. I'm not doing necessarily a full third coat. It's more of just if I want to create areas of interest, change it up a little bit. So all of these previous layers will be showing through. I'm also going to be doing a dark wax on this. So that is going to change it as well. I'm just going to move my paint over a bit here. I really am hoping to show you this third layer. So you guys too, if you are interested in any of this Iflex product, or just you even want to see how it works, I will be live tomorrow on the Iflex Wood Products page as well. At 1 o'clock Central Standard Time, we're going to be starting a new French provincial dresser. I know those are always favorites. We're going to be putting some trim and appliques on. You guys, I just want to let you know that I'm not really seeing any comments. So if you are commenting, I will go back after the live and answer any questions if I'm missing them. Sometimes it's just a quiet day, and other times I just can't see what's going on. Facebook is kind of funny like that. We just got the Antebellum going here. Getting that all in. And you guys, if you want to see, I'm not using a lot of paint on my brush. You don't want to load up your brush when you're doing this finish, because if you do, you will actually have full coverage and you won't have this first coat peeking through here. And just to let you know, I do have a little bit more of this when I'm coming in with the Peacock. And I'm okay if it's super thick in some spots. Just kind of twisting my brush around while I'm going to, because if you just dab and you don't twist your brush as you're going, you're just going to end up with these like the shape of the brush. So your stippling won't look quite natural. So you do want to twist as you're stippling. Same thing if you're going for an old world finish. And like I said, there is no pressure on my brush. This is almost like a feather. My stippling, I am changing the amount of pressure I have on here, just depending on what I want it to look like. And I find that as I go, I start stippling more. Let's see here. And then let's come in with a little bit more Peacock. We're almost done with this top section. I really can't see what I'm painting over there, but you can definitely, that's how you want this super random. So in this case, I'm not worried about that, especially since it's not my last coat. On my last coat, I will take more care and thought as to my technique, but on these layers, there's really no real need to. You just want it peeking, all this stuff peeking through. I'm just spreading that paint out, making sure that I can see through a little bit here. I'll definitely use the vinegar in that section. Let's get right in here. So like I said, this coat still looks crazy. This isn't the coat where it's going to start coming together and looking good yet. Yeah, you guys, I'm sorry. I really think I am not getting any of the comments here. All right, so now we've got our Pure Ocean highlight. It's doing a little bit of blending. This paint is still a little bit wet. Let's put a little bit more of this Pure Ocean on here. Just dab it around and streak this through, however you want to do it. It's all about what you like. There's no rules. This is really easy to do with the Terra clay line as well. Let's take some of that excess over here. Again, I got a little. So when you're using the natural bristle brushes, you will have a lot more loose hairs typically. Like I said, you can pick them out. Hey, Donna, good to see you. All right, so now we're gonna take and spray some over here. I'm going to dab back in a few areas here. So we're going to take, and how much you dab back to is purely dependent upon the amount of pressure that you're putting on here. You guys, this is flat, so like I said before, I do not have gravity to help me. This is going to create a lot of really cool drips, like I did on the front there. But the harder you dab, the more you're going to pull back. I'm just consistently trying to find clean spots on my baby wipe. And this should be good. The drier the paint is, the less it will pull back, but it will still pull back. And I think this is good. This is as much as I want for this particular layer. As it dries, that'll even out too when you're seeing like that glare right here that's just really still wet. So as it dries, it'll even out. All right, so I'm actually going to bring you guys down so you can see kind of what is going on next here, kind of how it will look. I'm going to go ahead and push this back. Actually, let me go ahead and get these, I'll get those sides after I'm off the live and that front, because I still have this under section to go through. So I'm going to drop you down and bring you in closer so you can really see what we got going on here. And I won't do a lot of this third coat. It is taking me considerably longer just because, and these colors, my lighting is terrible. I've got these overhead lights on and they're fluorescent. I only brought one of my photography lights out, so they're looking a little funny. They're much brighter than this. All right, so these two drawers, and actually let me bring you in for a close-up really quick. These two top drawers, I've pretty much done. After this second coat, I did put a coat of satin on here. Like I said, the colors are really off, but you can see in here, I've got vinegar, I've got some really cool drips. I'm also going over this with coffee bean to really age it out, and that's before we do the wax. It's still matte right now. But the reason I put that satin in between, oh my gosh, you guys, just my garage is horrible. Don't pay attention to it. Get you back down. I want to bring you in for a close-up when I'm doing this right here. And I think we're going to come over. Actually, let's go ahead and do the top on this side. And I am working top to bottom. And the reason that I am working top to bottom, so this is how it looks after the second coat with one coat of satin on it. I wanted to create a barrier so that I didn't activate these lower layers. There we go. So that I didn't activate these lower layers. So let's go ahead and bring this down. And I have to grab all my brushes, guys. Sorry. I just wanted to give you quite a few of the steps so that you could really kind of see also where it was going. It's a quiet night, Donna. I think this is still looking a little bit crazy, so, and I really wish I could get the coloring right, as far as how it looks, but, I think this is going to have to do it. So, no, Donna, this isn't Terra, but Terra would be excellent. So, when I did the very first live on here, I had Terra out, and there was good points and bad points to use in Terra for this type of finish as far as the protectant goes, because I didn't want to reactivate the paint. But the vote was for chalk mineral paint. So that's kind of what we're doing here. And we are going to come in, and like I said, this I'm going to take a considerable amount of time on this particular layer because I want it to look a certain way. We're just going to do the drawers for right now. We'll do a couple, maybe just one. Depends on how we get through with the time. So on this last and final coat, I have all my paint colors out here. Let me get everything together. Got to get my extra brushes out. And I've got my vinegar. And I'm just using the vinegar. It's white distilled vinegar, again, if you're late joining, in one of my Mr. bottles. And I'm actually going to start by spraying this with a little bit of water. Not a whole lot. That was actually probably more than I needed, but it's okay. It's not going to hurt anything. And we're going to come in. I'm using very, very little paint. And we're going to come in and start up here. And I'm using a lot of stippling on this particular layer. So like I said, this is a bit more artistic. I took a lot of time on this particular coat right here. I am covering up a little bit more. I'm being more selective in what I want to show through. This is my top, so I do want to use more of the lighter colors, probably less of that Antebellum. And right now, it's just water. Here's my Peacock. We're going to come in. You guys, I might talk a little bit less while I'm doing this. Might just be more watching. Bring some of this Peacock in. You know, I don't maybe want quite as much showing through. I just want it to be a little bit peeking through here and there. Bring some of this Peacock up. Maybe a little bit across the top here. And then we're going to take some, just a tad bit. Oh, thanks, Donna. Like I said, it's still a bit crazy looking. And I'm really liking it after this third coat. But I did try to take a couple sneak peek pictures. And it just, in the pictures, it's just not quite looking like it does in real life. So it looks like I'm covering up quite a bit more here. But I'm really not. I'm not messing with the molding too much. It's mainly, let's come back in with a little Antebellum. I'm going to go into these recessed areas because we want those to be dark. I'm using a very light hand because, again, I still want some of that to peek through. I want to just have this look a little bit more layered. But I want a lot of depth on here. Lots and lots of depth. All right. So, kind of liking this. I did not add any more Antebellum to my brush here. I'm about to, just a tad bit. I was just kind of using what was left over. Like I said, I'm taking a lot more time on here. And I think I want to go a little darker. I don't want quite as much of that showing through up there. Let's add a few more highlights. So in this case, I'm actually kind of taking some of that paint down. And I'm just going to kind of bring this along the top to highlight it. It's kind of a dabbing rub there. And now I want to go ahead and bring out a little bit of what you hear is me dabbing off my brush. I put a tiny bit on the corner. And then I want to highlight this a little bit more, make it a little bit brighter, bring it to the foreground. You guys, I'm actually using Plum Crazy that is pretty well dried. We're gonna run that out a little bit. Maybe give it a little bit just up here, give it a little bit of a highlight more. And then let's take some of our orange, our terracotta, and again, just a tad bit over there. Wipe it back. Let's bring some up here. Give that edge a little highlight. And this is yellow down here, but I'm adding a little bit of orange. Let's come in with a little bit of the terracotta, because once we get the knobs on, we can, and it darkens this up. This is gonna look a little bit rusty, like, you know, where you would have a little bit of rusty around there. And then we're gonna come in. This is where gravity makes a difference. I did not get my baby wipes, and I'm not gonna get up again, so I'm just gonna use one of my little shop towels. And we are going to give it a spray of vinegar. And we're gonna start pulling that. That dried a lot more than I thought it was going to, that quick. And start pulling this back a little bit. So it's bringing us back down to that first layer in that spot, giving us a nice little drip. I'm not sure if you can really see all the details here on camera, but I'm kind of liking how that's looking a little bit. I think I want to clean it up right there some on that drip, highlight it a little bit, even finger painting on here. I'll make sure I hit it a little bit more on this next drawer. We're going to just move over and do this one so that I can pull it back. I didn't let it dry so quick. Sometimes that happens when I'm live because I'm talking and not just focusing on painting. So we're going to come in up here, add a little bit of this Antebellum. This is nice and watery, so it's not giving me... So this Antebellum is not super opaque. It's a little bit transparent, the way I have it on here. Let's get it a little bit around there. Kind of like how that's looking over there. So I'm going to pretty much leave that alone. Come back in with a little tiny bit of Peacock. And the one thing about this paint job is once it dries up, and you kind of see how it's looking, you can always come in and just touch up one area. It's not like a blend where you have to do the whole thing. You can just get one little spot. And let's go ahead. Just want to give it a little bit of the pure ocean on here. I think part of the issue I'm having with pulling this back too is more related to me using this shop towel. I always use baby wipes for this. The baby wipes have a texture on them, so it pulls back really kind of in a cool kind of look. So I want to leave that out. I want to deepen up some of this right over here. I didn't add any extra paint. I'm just dabbing a little bit harder to get some of that Plum Crazy to show a little bit. All right, so you know what? We're really good. I need this to dry up a little bit so I can show you kind of the aging process. I don't want to add any vinegar on here, any additional vinegar. I don't want any more drips. The first layer I had some, and those are already peeking through. Let me bring you in and see if this looks. I just feel like on camera, you really just can't see how those details come through. Are you guys able to see that? Like over here where the drip, you've got just a little drip. You've got all these colors peeking through up here. And when I'm putting that second coat of color on, please ignore my garage here, guys. When I'm putting that second coat of color on too, the colors look a little bit different because there's 3 layers. So even though you're seeing this terracotta or this plum crazy, it's got different tones that it's actually showing. Then we're going to come in, and this is, we're kind of running out of time here a little bit. So I'm just going to really quickly try to do this. I'm coming in with a little bit of coffee bean. This is kind of one of my first aging steps. Coming in with a little bit of coffee bean, kind of wipe all the paint off. I want it to go up on the bristles a little bit. And I'm just going to kind of start working this in. I want the edges to almost look like a distressed. It's kind of like a painted distressed. I am doing this while it's still a little damp. It's nice when it's dry. You have a lot more control when it's dry. Once it gets, once it's wet, you're doing a little bit of blending. It's a little bit harder to apply. Normally I would just, if this was dry, I would just run it up like this. Just kind of go over, but when it's wet, it ends up creating more like a blend, and that's not really what I want. So I'm just kind of dabbing it along these edges. It's going to give it more interest. Can't really see that side so good, but it's okay. So once I do that, I'm actually going to rub even more of this off because I'm going to create a little shading. That's going to enhance it when I put the wax on for that last step. And I can dab in here if I want to darken it up a little bit. Kind of see how that looks. I'm going to go kind of up and around this area because you'd see it shaded a little bit. If you get it too dark, don't worry about it. Just use your finger, kind of smear it in a little bit because it's still damp. This paint hasn't, you know, really hardened. So for me, this area right here is looking a little flat. Remember I created all that texture? Guys, I feel like you can't see. I'm lightly rubbing this over that area. So those high points are picking up the coffee bean from my brush. And we're just gonna go over and do this other drawer. And then I'll bring you in so you can kind of see what that's doing to it. But a paint job like this, it's just layers and layers. Hey, Donna, good to see you. Okay, good, Penny. I'm so glad you can see it. Okay, good, Donna. You see where I'm going. You guys, sometimes when I'm at this stage where it's just looking crazy, I feel like people are probably looking at this thinking, oh my gosh, what is she doing? But this piece I am spending probably more time than I would normally spend. But I have this thing in my head of kind of what I want it to look like. Here I'm it's really still wet in these crevices, so it's more of kind of just blending that coffee bean in a little bit. Let's go around here some, add a little bit, bring it down. And you guys, by the way, I forgot to say this when I started, but my first thing I did on here was to go over all these molds that I put on with coffee bean. That is the first start in creating all of that depth and all of that texture. All right, so I'm kind of where I want to be with this. I know I haven't done this one yet, but this is creating that shading already. I'm just getting the excess off. So let me bring you in. I'll let you see these drawers. And hey, Marianne, good to see you. Let's see. So let me bring you in so you can really, really, really kind of see the difference. Whoops, I've got my coffee bean here I'm about to spill. So you can really see the difference. So can you see how that adding that coffee bean, it caught on all of these high points here. Can you see the shading that it added? It kind of starts to bring it together and it doesn't look as crazy. Like this spot right here, this is pretty, I mean, this is a really popping spot, but once I go over that with wax, it's going to tone down and meld into it as well. But you can see where that drip caught some of those coffee bean highlights. We've got all this extra shading down in between here. It's just really starting to make it look more aged. So you can see how all of that peeks through. And like I said, it's going to change even more because once you put the protectant on, it's going to change the sheen. It won't quite look the way it does now. That's going to bring it all together because you won't see all of those different tones in it as much. They won't be as significant. And then once I go over it with the wax, that's totally going to bring it together more. So right now, I've got the top drawers done except for these middle ones. Well, not completely done, but you know, all the coats of paint on it that they're going to have. Everything else will just be products to age it out. It's so weird. When I look in the camera that we're on right now, this looks so dull. It does not look bright at all. But it's definitely, when I look at it on the phone, it's super bright. This is, when I see it on my phone, it's more realistic of the true colors. Yeah, I love doing a dry brush with coffee bean on any type of aged finish or anything I want to age out a little bit. Coffee bean is definitely my go-to. You guys, that's it. Like I said, I will have this piece finished up by Sunday. It looks crazy, but it's much farther along than it looks at this point. But I think that's it, you guys. Thanks for joining me. If you do want, I will be live tomorrow again on the Iflex wood products page. We're going to be working on this French Provincial, which is right behind me. We're going to be adding trim, some appliques. We're going to be cutting and kind of redesigning some of the appliques on that. So definitely join me again tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out tonight. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend. If I don't see everybody again, happy Thanksgiving. I almost said happy Halloween. It's been a long week. But happy Thanksgiving, you guys, and thanks for hanging out tonight. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.